The Apollo 8 mission launched on December 21st, 1968 included astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders, and they became the first humans to arrive at the moon. Not land, just arrive. And the Soviets had the same plan at the same time. Did the Apollo 8 mission launch just in the nick of time before the Soviets? This question answered and more on the next Vintage Retrospekt. Hello, I am Chad, your host, and I do want to start off with a few caveats. I do want to start with how hypothetically Apollo 8 may have not beat the Soviets based on certain pivotal moments, but I also want to round off the rest of the video for a look into the Apollo 8 problems I only briefly described in my previous video about how every Apollo mission to the moon had at least one problem. I will link this video right up here. Now, Apollo 8 was a mission of haste, desperation, uncertainty, but it was also a mission of hope, morale, and redemption, as Americans were distracted by the Vietnam War, the shooting of Bobby Kennedy, and of course the civil unrest that was happening in America in the early 1960s. The Soviet Union had a crude-rated moon plans of their own. In August of 1968, the plan was to send the Command and Service Module alone on a risky mission to orbit the moon, but we're going to get into a little bit more on why they didn't land as well. So there was this mission called Zond 5 from the Soviets that placed the first living thing around the moon. And it was a turtle, of all things. Well, they didn't have to move around much, so that made training of those turtle nuts a lot easier. This mission already spooked NASA, and time was crunching down as satellite photos discovered by James Webb in 1967 indicated a large rocket capable of sending humans to the moon. This was the pivotal trigger that changed the velocity of the American lunar program to fast-track the development. This finding led to the brain-strain meetings arguing that speeding up development time is dangerous as they were still learning from the tragic lessons of Apollo 1. And the counter-argument, which was to recommend a lunar flyby with only the CSM, or Command Service Module. On August 1968, the plan was changed to send the CSM alone on a risky mission to orbit the moon, giving NASA only about 4 months to prepare for this preemptive strike. In order to solve the global and political issues at the time, Apollo 8 set out to give the world a morale boost and a glimpse of hope for humanity. The mission was also given a green light, and Apollo 8 would set the final pace for the moon race. So, unwilling to risk the crew, the Apollo 8 mission was approved to beat the upcoming Zond 6 mission from the Soviets, which would ultimately carry flies and other insects. However, unknown to the US, Zond 6 launched on November 17th of 1968, just almost 1 month apart from Apollo 8. So it's safe to say that the Soviets beat the Americans to get the first living things to fly by the moon, and not humans. So here's a fun fact. The Zond 5 mission transmitted pre-recorded cosmonaut voices that were intercepted by the Jodrell Bank Observatory and the CIA, which fooled the US into thinking the mission really carried cosmonauts around the moon. But with that said, Apollo 8 came packaged with its unique and nail-biting problems during its 3-day voyage to the moon. Due to the lunar module and its slow development state, the first conditional problem was to forgo the lunar landing. For one, there was no lifeboat since they were not bringing the lunar module, you know, the funny looking lander that connects the Command and Service Module in orbit. I have a video right up here on how some people think the lunar module is ugly. Now, other issues that occurred was the partial but minor engine failure that occurred on the far side of the moon, and other small issues came from the navigation system. Things were not 100% ready as it seems, but keep in mind, these were only problems because of the decision to fast-track the mission to beat the Soviet Zond program from reaching the moon before the United States. So what would the space program have looked like if Apollo 8 landed on the moon, or if the Soviets landed before us? Let me know down below, and also don't forget to subscribe so that others can learn what an international space race looks like. Also, before I go, don't forget to check me out at Orbital Edge News. I am the host on all things modern space. And with that said, I'm your host, Chad, and I will see you out on the launch pad.